Hello, hunters and huntresses. Brian, Nelson Creek Outdoors, Lucky 7 Cents, and the premier bulk scent manufacturer now, Bucket Scents. Continuing on with this little series here, our new quote unquote podcast. I know it's not really a podcast, but you got to call it something, right? And we went through the first step there where it is odor and olfactory senses and how that makes the basis for the basic scent. And it should be a familiar scent, isn't necessarily a huge attractant, doesn't have any chemicals that directly stimulate anything, other than a familiarity in the animal that it smells like urine from another of their species. So what's the next step? And that's what I said, 99.9%. I'm going to state this again. I have actually asked the big bulk manufacturers about the content of some of their scents, and I specifically asked if they contain pheromones. I've asked them that by email. The answer was no. That's what they said to me. But take that for a grain of salt, whatever you want. But that's what I asked, and that's the answer I got. No. Do I believe that to be true? Yes, I believe that to be true. Pheromones are hard to figure out and deal with in some cases, and I don't think that's where the industry's gone. And that's why I'm doing it a little differently, because I want to make biological attraction. And that's the next part of this is the biological attraction part, not just the smell, the exact chemicals. And that's where we'll start with just pheromones. And there's other things that come. There's pheromones from one animal in the species to another. And then there's also chemical detection that works very similar, where a prey animal will detect the certain chemicals in predator urine or predator secretions. And they work similarly. And I don't really need to differentiate for this video. So those kind of sensors, the olfactory is the nose, the sense of smell like you went through. And then there is the Jacobson organ in the deer or vomeronasal organ. And that's a different kind of sensor. It's got kind of an auxiliary olfactory system. This system tends to detect, the smell detects the volatile chemicals in the air that create the smell and detects them as a group and puts together in the brain a picture of what that smell is. In the other system, a specific chemical goes. A pheromone, for instance, goes from one animal in the species to another. And it goes into this organ, and it is detected as a specific chemical. And I've said this before. It's more like a key in a lock. A smell is just what's there, it measures it, and then it makes an interpretation. And these other receptors, it's more like a key in a lock. This molecule is the only thing that turns that lock, ideally. And when it turns that lock, it triggers a behavior in the deer. A mating behavior, a rubbing behavior, a rub urinate behavior, whatever the behavior is. And there's other well-known pheromones. I mean, bumblekill is one of the first ever found. It's in a moth. They use it to trap moths now. They blast it out in the air and put it in traps and kill all the moths because they come thinking it's other moths to breed with. And it's not that simplistic with deer because the more complex the organism, the more the brain is involved and they can make decisions on their own. Moth, you put pheromones in a flame, he's going to fly in and burn up. You put pheromones in your garage, the deer's probably not going to go in there. Anyway, so there's some thought process in the animal, as basic as they are, that override some of that. But still, the method is the same. You have to figure out what that specific pheromone, and there are a lot of pheromones, even in one animal, and they do different things. Again, as far as I know, I am the only one that has identified most of these and has them in my products. I've asked other companies, and they've said they don't. So I'll take them by their word there, and I have those emails there. I won't say who it is or anything like that. But so, like I said, they stop at pea perfume. It smells like urine. At least they hope it smells like urine and familiar to deer. Now I take the next step and go toward that more biological attraction of the pheromone and other ways. So Now, if you figure out what the pheromone is, it may or may not be stable. Now, obviously, I've been doing estrus pheromone in our since 2015. I think is when I stole. I think I developed 2014. It's blurry. It's been a while. Um, very hit that one down pretty well, and it does it. Triggers the instinct in deer to begin to breed, to look for that animal to breed. They smell the estrus urine, smells like estrus urine, and then the pheromone turns that little lock, and now they're hunting that doe that they believe is a doe to breed with her because she is marked as ready to breed with that estrus pheromone. And there are tarsal pheromones, there are preorbital pheromones, there are other pheromones. Other animals have alarm pheromones and stuff. Metatarsals in some deer, like black deer, produce an alarm pheromone, but they don't seem to function in a whitetail. Um, but anyway, so that's the next step of it. If you have to have the specific chemical, and that's the hard one to find. There's small components, um, specific components. They may break down in the urine quickly or in the solution. They're very hard to identify, and that's why people don't do it. And it takes some skill and some work to go ahead and sniff that out, and that's part of what we've done. And you'll see the difference in the scent. So that's how you create the true biological attraction. Now, similar, since there are chemicals in predator urine that are made by the digestion of protein, byproducts and stuff, and they come out in your urine. And prey animals have what they call trace amine associated receptors. We don't have to differentiate those from the others either. They're more another pretty specific chemical, and they're tuned to either specific chemicals or specific classes of chemicals. And they create behaviors like avoidance. Um, there's been in cat urine, wolf urine, there are chemicals that have been determined to turn those locks in predator and prey animals and cause an avoidance response. Same, very similar thing. And that actually goes into the next topic. You put out both smells and specific chemicals that deer detect that identify you as a predator. And that's where we'll go with the next step of this. We'll talk about a little bit about how that works, how similar to the pheromones, but how you stop that deer from detecting you, or at least do your best to stop them from detecting you. Now, this is where I think you see some of the confusion. Deer don't have a chemistry set, but they do have a tuned set of receptors for these chemicals. So they do know that that chemical is there. Um, but this also goes to show that they're wrong when they talk about, oh, all urine is the same. No, it's not. Because if the urine of the predator animal is the same as the prey animal, the prey animals would avoid both other predators and prey animals because they wouldn't know the difference. And all the whole system of marking by semiochemical communication would break down. But it doesn't happen. Nature does it perfectly all the time. So that's the next step. We'll talk about how to eliminate your odor and how to fool that deer's nose that you can't fool. And no, you can't fool anybody's nose, I guess, 100% of the time without 100% filtering and 100% odor destruction. But that is not the name of the game or the end all of the game. Just because you can't do something absolutely perfect doesn't mean it isn't worthwhile to get very dang close. All right. Thanks again, people.